All right, so World War III breaks out, right? Everybody thinks, oh yeah, America's going to win. America's going to win. But I wouldn't be so sure about that. Why? It's actually pretty obvious. I don't think America would win World War III if it broke out right now. Well, how dare you say that? Let me explain. So everybody's going to tell you, you just go ahead and you Google, will America win World War III? And you're going to see the charts and the graphs, and you're going to see, oh, America uses this much money, and they dwarf everybody else's military as far as budget and, money and technology and all this stuff. And yeah, that's all true. However, there's one thing that you're probably not going to read anywhere, and that's this. America's military is very extremely vulnerable. I'm not talking about EMPs. I'm not talking about nuclear weapons. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about conventional weapons. I'm talking about other countries have technology that we don't have that, if deployed in a efficient manner, could literally wipe out most of America's military in a matter of seconds. Okay? So what is that? These are hypersonic missiles. Hypersonic missiles, what are they? You've probably heard of them. Well, they're basically just missiles that go really, really fast. And the key is they move in the air and they can't be shot down. Well, if they can't be shot down, what does that mean? It means that whatever they're programmed to target and they're programmed to hit, they're going to hit. Okay? So let's think about that. What makes America's military strong? It's technology, right? Number one thing is the aircraft carriers, the Navy. We have, 11 aircraft carriers, 12, 10, something like that. Each one is basically a floating America, right? It's one of the most amazing things that people have ever built, right? They're amazing. Aircraft carriers are just unbelievable. I mean, they hold 5,000 people. They can basically do anything militarily without any warning, without any, preparation. They're just ready to go. They're surrounded by so many ships and layers and layers and layers. No missile can get to them because of their missile defense systems. No airplane can hit them with rockets or anything like that, and nothing can hit them because they're surrounded, right? If anybody comes close, you got airplanes, you got missiles, you got other ships, you got submarines, you got all these things, all these layers of protection, and they're basically undefeatable. Right? I mean, I guess a nuclear weapon could destroy them, right? However, there is one thing that people seem to forget about. Hypersonic missiles, undefeatable, right? I mean, I guess a nuclear weapon could destroy them, right? However, there is one thing that people seem to forget about. Hypersonic missiles. What would happen if, let's say, whatever country the enemy is, decides they want to target all of our aircraft carriers at one time with hypersonic missiles and sink them? That would absolutely be possible because they're basically sitting targets. They're giant pieces of metal that just sit in the ocean. I mean, if they don't think that the enemy knows where these things are at all time, well, I'm sorry, they got another thing coming, because you can't hide something that big, right? They're not stealth. So aircraft carriers, let's say, it's a horrible thought, right? But let's say another country targets all of our aircraft carriers at one time and takes them out, destroys them. Guess what? America's military is now extremely crippled. More crippled than anybody would ever imagine. Why? Because our Navy is the cornerstone, is the backbone of our military. We might be saying, well, what about the Air Force? What about, our great Air Force? And let me tell you, our Air Force is pretty awesome, right? We do have a lot of equipment, but our Air Force is also heavily reliant on one thing. Now, what is that one thing? That one thing is aerial refueling. Now, remove the aerial refueling capabilities, and what do you get? You have an Air Force that's completely crippled. The range is limited, right? All of our airplanes have a capability to refuel in air, which gives them unlimited range, right? So we can take off from America, from the homeland, fly overseas, run some sorties, drop bombs, do whatever, and then come back, because they can refuel in the air, right? They're never going to run out of fuel. The pilots are trained. They can go days up there. It's fine. So what happens if you take out our tankers and therefore eliminate the aerial refueling capabilities. Well, then our Air Force is completely useless. I mean, you can run limited range sorties from the military bases in Germany, right? Okay, how far can you go? A few hundred miles? I mean, you think that these aircraft can go unlimited range with the fuel that they have, but they can't. They're actually, the range is very low. They have to go, they have to refuel, they have to do all these things. They're refueling all the time. Every single mission, even the ones that come off of the aircraft carriers, are refueling in air before they're hitting or after they're hitting their targets on whatever country they're hitting targets on. It is completely crippled, and the Navy's done, basically, right? I mean, our submarines are basically just running large nukes for a doomsday scenario, which they would probably bring on if all of our aircraft carriers sank, right? I don't know. So let's just, keep going here. So let's say our aircraft carriers get taken out, all of the aerial refueling tankers get taken out because, for one, there's not that many of them, and for two, are we making more planes? No, we're not making more planes. Why? All of our production capabilities come from overseas. Do we make steel now? No, we don't make steel. Are we making aluminum? No. We are taking all of our equipment, we're making it here, but we're using the raw materials that are shipped over from overseas. So take away the raw materials, what do you have? You have nothing. We have no way to produce these things anymore. We can't produce tanks. We can't produce any armor, airplanes. I mean, we have some factories here, but guess what? For one, they're already running at full capacity. So let's say, oh yeah, we need to build 1 million planes. Well, guess what? That's not possible. All of the equipment, all of the supplies, everything they need to build the planes comes from overseas. And if we're at World War III, guess what? Highly likelihood that the place that we're getting that from is not going to be on our side. So how are we going to make our stuff, right? We can't. So take out the aircraft carriers. You take out the refueling tankers. So what do we got left, right? We got the Army. How is the Army going to go anywhere? They can't. Put them on ships. What ships? They're going to get hit with missiles. Put them on airplanes. How are the airplanes going to refuel? They can't. So you have all the Army stuck here, right? They can't go anywhere. They're crippled and they're useless at this point, right? So what are the options? Well, you might be talking about some secret space technology, some satellite stuff. Yeah, but you know what? Other countries know how to take out satellites, right? So satellites can be removed from the equation probably pretty easily, I would say. And I mean, could you put new ones up? Probably, but I'm sure that that's going to be, I mean, how useful is that going to be if you don't have a Navy and your Air Force can't do anything, right? So, I mean, World War III breaks out. We lose our Navy instantly. Our Air Force becomes crippled. You're talking about, oh, what about our other helpers, our country friends, France and England and all these people? What are they going to do? I mean, they're getting hit with missiles too. They're getting hit. They're having invasion forces roll up in their streets. I mean, you remember Genghis Khan? He just rolled on through. I mean, you don't think other countries can roll on through too? I mean, it's been done throughout history. It can be done again. History does repeat itself, and it will, right? Just look at history. You're going to see what's coming. So, can America win World War III? It could. Is it likely? No. Why? Because we don't have hypersonic missiles. We can't defend against hypersonic missiles, and hypersonic missiles can take care of every single thing that we have against them, right? So, I mean, at this point, only thing we have to do is use EMPs, nukes, all these types of things, because there's nothing else left. You're going to cripple America's military to the point where there's no other option. And I think this is exactly why Joe Biden was saying that America's first strike capabilities or options or whatever are not going to be, taken off the table. Why? Because I think they know, everybody knows that all it would take is a coordinated effort by just, a few missile launches here and there, a few different things, and that's it. Our military will be completely crippled. And, what about a draft? What happens if there's a draft? Well, think about it. Let's use critical thinking and logic. What happens if there's a draft? Well, look at the people who are in that draft age right now. These people have never seen pain. what do you think is going to happen if there's a draft? Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. I honestly think that this would cause the Civil War to break out immediately. Why would a Civil War break out if there's a draft? Think about it. You have a generation of kids who are raised on video games, ice cream, and McDonald's. You know, they're not the same. They don't have the same mindset as the World War II people or even the Vietnam people, for instance, right? They don't have even close to the same mindset. So let's just pretend, okay, draft is called tomorrow. The government shows up at these kids' houses. What's going to happen? No, they're going to start crying and freaking, I'm not going, rah, 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 rah. Okay, well, they're going to throw them in jail, right? Or they're going to force them to go. Is a forced army good? No. Even if it's under draft conditions, you need the morale, you need the troops to believe what they're fighting for. So if they're given the option, you go to prison or you have to fight, do you think they're going to be effective? Absolutely not. And another thing is, how many prisons are they going to make? Because, like, millions and millions of people are going to say, no, this is your war, not mine. You started it, and here's why you started it. I mean, it's just ridiculous at this point to think that people would willingly want to fight in a war that has nothing to do with anything except for politics, greed, and control. And millions of people are going to say, no, this is your war, not mine. You started it, and here's why you started it. I mean, it's just ridiculous at this point to think that people would willingly want to fight in a war that has nothing to do with anything except for politics, greed, and control, right? I guess all wars have been like that. Every single war. So, I mean, honestly, I do think that a civil war would break out if a draft happened. I think people who are patriots and who love the country wouldn't fight. Why? Because the government has pointed these people out as enemies. The government has specifically said, hey, you love America? Well, guess what? We don't love you. And these are the people that you want in a draft. And these are the people who are going to be not going into the draft, and they're going to face the consequences rather than help, the very same people who were against them. So there's really no way that America could win if these things happened, right? Now, that's why Joe Biden's talking about the first strike, because, let's use our nuclear weapons, our tactical nukes, to hit these hypersonic missile facilities and locations. That way we take them out of the equation, right? Well, think about it like this. The enemy reads The Art of War just like everybody else. And when I say enemy, I mean enemy. The Art of War is a book that every single military West Point graduate reads. Everybody knows The Art of War. The Art of War is a thing, right? And if you read it, you're going to realize, well, this is what they're doing. If you think that you can watch TV and say, oh, I know what they're doing, it's easy. The TV just told me. Well, I have a house to sell you in the middle of the ocean, right? I know it's supposed to be a bridge in Brooklyn, but guess what? I got a house in the ocean. It's better. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't see how this could work out good for anybody involved. And if you're thinking, oh, well, America's just number one, we're going to win. Just put it in the comments. Tell me how. Because it would just take a few, not even nukes, right? A few coordinated missile strikes on our homeland to even further decapitate us. You hit Newport News, Virginia, where they make the ships. You destroy that with some regular conventional missiles. We can't rebuild it because everything we use comes from other countries. So you just destroy our shipyards, we can't build more ships. You destroy the factories that make planes, we can't rebuild the factories because every single thing in America comes from something else, right? And that's by design. It is what it is. So